The Ravens Preview Show with Andy Pollin starts right now.
It wasn't perfect, it wasn't pretty, but it was the Ravens.
Listen to all Ravens broadcasts right here on 6:30 a.m., the ESPN 630 app, or ESPN630DC.com.
And with 1:17 left to play, the Hayes in the barn.
Now, here's Andy Pollin.
Ravens are playing at Pittsburgh on Sunday. That's a 1 o'clock kickoff. Means our coverage here on ESPN 630 gets underway at 12:30 as the Ravens continue a successful season and face a division foe, which is playing its first division game of the year. Crazy how the scheduling goes for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But they're coming off a win here in Washington last weekend and look like the defense is really stout at this point and ready maybe to continue their success against Lamar Jackson, who has not had a lot of success against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Brian Wacker from the Baltimore Sun is with us. And I think most people would be surprised, Brian, when they heard that this is only the fifth start that Lamar will have against Pittsburgh, and he's been in the league as a starter since midway through the 2018 season. First of all, is just circumstance that it's worked out that way? I mean, what do you make of what has happened so far with Lamar against Pittsburgh?
Yeah, good morning, Andy. It is wild when you think of this rivalry, the history of it, and the intensity of it, and all those games, and all the players involved. And then, to your point, Lamar Jackson has only played in 4 of those games since taking over as starter, and it's been a mix of reasons, right? Last year, of course, Week 18, meaningless game for the Ravens, having wrapped up that top AFC seed. They sat Lamar along with most of their starters in that game. They've done the same in the past. One other game, I think it was in 2019. And then there's been, of course, Lamar has had a series of injuries in his career for a couple of years and also had COVID for one of those games. So, it's been an unfortunate and odd series of circumstances that have kept him out of it. But when he has played in these games, he's just 1-3. The Ravens are, with him as the starting quarterback against the Steelers, and he's put up some of the worst numbers of his career against them.
Yeah. Seven interceptions to go with 4 touchdowns, which is, what has he thrown, 2 or 3 interceptions all year long this year? I mean, that's just not him. Why do they have that kind of success against him?
It is bizarre. You mentioned Lamar has been really good with ball security this year, just 2 interceptions, hasn't thrown one, I think, in a month. And really the 2 he did throw, not really entirely on him. They were off receivers' hands. So in terms of the success against Lamar, I talked to Arthur Millette about this earlier in the week, of course, the former Steeler. He talked about their game plan effectively was have a guy assigned to Lamar at the mesh point of that RPO offense, especially a run-heavy offense that they ran under former offensive coordinator Greg Roman, and then just make sure, basically put pressure on him to make a decision. And look, early in Lamar's career, or earlier in his career, those were learning curves for him as in terms of a passer and having to make those quick decisions. This year, of course, he's elevated his game yet again. Coming off an MVP season, has taken another step forward, both in his decision-making, ball security, checks at the line, accuracy. All of those things have improved significantly. And it's also a different offense, right? This is a team that throws the ball quite a bit. Lamar is on pace for a career high in yardage, on pace for more than 4,000 yards. They also, of course, run the ball very well. Derrick Henry now in the mix, and you throw in a guy like Keaton Mitchell, that sort of change of pace, speed, lightning fast running back, explosive backfield that they have. And it's quite a bit different of an offense, I think, from those Steelers games earlier in Lamar's career.
I was looking at the numbers. The Steelers have won 7 of the last 8, and there was one game in 2020 which was decided 28-24. In every other game, the winning team has had 20 or less. But if you look at this year's game, the over-under is 48, and justified by, a Baltimore defense which is shockingly bad. How do you explain that?
stunningly bad. I think if anyone could explain it, they wouldn't be this bad, including the Ravens' own defense and their coordinators and coaches. Look, it's been, no other way to put it, it's been the worst pass defense in the NFL this season. And there are a number of reasons for that. I think you can look at certainly some personnel. They've had some turnover. And I look at the pass rush. Of course, last year they led the NFL in sacks. They're fifth, I believe, this year. But they're not quite really getting the same pressure on quarterbacks that they have, at least not to the consistent level in which they did last year. I think if you look at some of the secondary, you've had a little bit of injuries. You've had guys just not playing well. Marcus Williams has been one of the worst safeties in the NFL this year. Inexplicable. This is a guy who, at worst, was a very solid, above-average safety just last year, really. Had some injuries late in the year, but that doesn't seem to be the case this year. There seems to be confusion among guys. You're seeing guys not in the right spots. You're seeing communication issues. Some of that could be, pinned on first-year defensive coordinator with Zach Orr. And to his credit, he's acknowledged, look, he's maybe tried to do too much at times, especially early in the season with the defense and all those disguised coverages that they're so well known for. But also, guys like Roquan Smith not playing to the same level he played at a year ago. So it's been a combination of things, really. And then, of course, other turnover within the coaching staff as well. And I think Bernard Wilson, losing him as a defensive backs coach was a big blow as well.
Yeah, you hear the term, complementary football all the time. And with a defense that struggles like that, I think that the high number of carries for Derrick Henry this year is 19. I mean, why not give him the ball 6 or 7 more times a game to shorten it up and keep your defense off the field?
Sure. And look, John Harbaugh made it very clear Derrick Henry is not going to be a guy who gets 30 carries a week every week at 30 years old and given all their other weapons on offense. That said, teams have also stacked the box against this team. They've dared Lamar to beat them with his arm, and he's done it. To your point, he's tied for the lead in touchdown passes in the NFL with 24. Only has the 2 interceptions, has played really, really high-level football, that really the best football of his career to this point.
The window, and this is what you always look at with quarterbacks. Even though Lamar's only 27 years old, this is his 7th year in the league. And what you counted on is a great defense to complement him. That's starting to fall apart. Are people in Baltimore talking about window now? Because to really make this team what it could be is you got to get to a Super Bowl, and they came up short last year. Is there a sense maybe that the window is starting to close a little bit?
I think certainly the fan base, I don't know if they view it as the window starting to close just yet. To your point, Lamar is just 27, but you can't waste these opportunities.
Yeah.
When you have a historically great offense, you can't then turn around and have a historically bad defense, which is what the Ravens are this year in terms of yardage and plays they're giving up. So I think in the building, they don't really subscribe to that philosophy. They sort of see the window is always moving and always evolving, which, sounds great and all, but at the end of the day, you have to figure that Lamar, the peak of his career is probably these next, 3 to 5 years. And that's really, the opportunity for them to get to and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Last thing, their bye is the same as Washington, late, week 14. I think we're seeing it with a young team here with the Commanders. Do you see a team, because they haven't had a bye, starting to wear down a little bit at this point in the season?
Yeah, I think certainly that's the case. I think we saw it a little bit last year. They had a bye very late in the season as well, around the same time. And when you play that many games in a row, and particularly for, a team that didn't play guys in the preseason, and so, there's kind of a quick ramp up there, going from 0 to 100 very quickly, guys are going to break down, and there's not a ton of depth on this team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So, I think if they can somehow get through the bye without any major injuries, they would be very, very fortunate.
Yeah, what happens on Sunday?
Well, I think the same thing that's happened, every time these teams seem to play. It's late. It's close. It comes down to one or two key plays. I think Lamar, as much as he has struggled against the Steelers, I think them not having Alex Highsmith is a big blow. And I think Lamar has been really intentional about taking care of the football. And I don't think he'll make the mistakes that we've seen him make in the past, particularly in Pittsburgh. You're back to that game last year. There's a strip sack late in the game where turnover led to, essentially clinched the game, where Lamar was strip sacked by Alex Highsmith. So to me, I think Lamar has elevated his game to a level that he nudges the Ravens past the Steelers, something like 23-20, 27-24. Somewhere in that ballpark.
No, on both sides of that, that's the over and the under, but that's okay. I gotta get that. But yeah, good to talk to you. Thanks very much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
That's Brian Wacker of the Baltimore Sun as the Ravens head into Pittsburgh on Sunday. Again, the over-under 48, which seems high for two teams that usually play a really close defensive game, but these aren't your daddy's defense for the Ravens, that's for sure. More preview coming up, what Chris Sims says will happen on Sunday, plus Booger McFarland on why the Steelers have been so successful containing Lamar. Stay with us. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
Ravens on 3, 1, 2, 3.
This is the Ravens Preview Show presented by Verizon. Here's Andy Pollin.
The Ravens and the Steelers Sunday in Pittsburgh. Coverage here on ESPN 630 gets underway at 12:30. Chris Sims with Pro Football Talk looking at this matchup, particularly the over-under. 48 points, which seems high because in most of the matchups, the winning team has 20 points or less. But as Sim says, this is not a very good Ravens defense, thus the points make sense.
Ravens offense is high-flying. Steelers offense is not high-flying, but the Ravens defense sucks. So I understand the over and under. It is rare to see that kind of number, right? My big thing, Mike, and I think my big question of this football game is, can the Steelers throw the ball consistently on Baltimore? I just don't know. I mean, I know they're going to make a few plays and do that. I understand that. But they're going to have to do more than what we've seen that last week or some of these other games that they've won recently, where it's just like 2 or 3 throws of the day where we go, oh, wow, that was big right there. Way to go. Oh, yeah. We know they want to run the ball, do that. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball all that easily on this Baltimore defense. And so I do think it's going to have to be the pass game. And I just question whether the pass game has enough to keep pace with Baltimore and their offense and what they do. I know the Steelers, their history, they know how to defend Lamar. They know how to play the Ravens. But this is a different Ravens offense. This is the best Ravens offense ever under Lamar. I know his first year when he won the first MVP was really good, but that was more like a scheme and a system that was catching the league by surprise. This is like whatever they want to do, they can do on that side of the ball. I just don't know if I trust Pittsburgh's offense to continually make plays, and I feel like I know the Ravens will. I'm going to go Ravens, 28-24, winning this one.
All right, 28-24, which would be more high-scoring than usual of the past 8 games. That's the highest-scoring game between the two teams, and that was back in 2020. To Sim's point about how good the offense has been with Lamar, they're number 1 in total yards, 440 a game, and points, almost 32 a game. And in the past 8 games, he's thrown 22 touchdowns and 1 interception. Yet, in his career against the Steelers as a starter, which he hasn't faced them very much, but he's 1-3. And against the other teams in the NFC North, Cincinnati and Cleveland, he has 17-5 in that stretch. Pittsburgh is the only team which he's thrown more interceptions, 7, than touchdown passes, 4. So what are the Steelers doing to contain Lamar Jackson? Booger McFarland explained yesterday on PTI.
The people that struggle against Lamar Jackson don't understand how to play him. You play man-to-man coverage on the back end and you blitz him, and once he gets by you, then he can run all over the field. Well, the Steelers don't do that. Most of the time what they do is they understand how to rush him with T.J. Watt and Highsmith and Hayward up front. And if they do pressure him, they're going to do it with zone pressure. What does that mean? They're going to try to speed him up while on the back end, they want to keep all the eyes on Lamar Jackson. So Mike Tomlin understands that Lamar Jackson is a two-time MVP. His legs are a weapon, and I can't allow the thing that he does best, which is run and create and be elusive, to beat me. So how do you do that? You keep as many eyes on him as you can by playing zone defense, while at the same time trying to speed him up by coming with some of those fire zones and those zone pressures. That's why the Steelers have had so much success.
Yeah, I felt the same thing last night, what we saw with Jaden Daniels and how they were able to contain him last night in Philadelphia. So that might be the same formula that the Steelers are using, but Lamar is having a great year. The offense is having a great year, and he really hasn't had a weapon like Derrick Henry before, so they've got to respect that as well. This is Lamar on Wednesday, and he's talking about rivalry games, and he doesn't make a lot of jokes, but this is actually funny. He was asked about the fact that this is the main rival in the division, the team that they're probably going to have to beat out if they're going to win the division. They're going to face them again next month in Baltimore, and here was Lamar on what rivalry games mean to him.
Youth football, Fort Lauderdale Lake Vikings. I hated them. I still hate them because I can think about the games we lost against them. I'm like, bro, how did we lose? Like, yeah, man. Yeah, I hated them. I still hate them right now. Like, the kids cool now. I love the kids now, but I wouldn't want my child to play for Lauderdale Lakes, man.
You feel that way about the Steelers at all?
I mean, I hate everybody in the league. Well, every team in the league when I'm going against them. I don't have no heart for a team I'm going against them. I'm trying to win because they don't have a heart for me when they're going against me. Probably after the game is all love, but on that field, no.
I can relate, Lamar, playing for the Chevy Chase Senators. We lost three games the whole last season, all to the Whittier White Sox by one run. We hated the Whittier White Sox. They were richer than we were. They lived in the Whitman district, and we lived in the mean streets of Chevy Chase, and we lost to them 3 times. So I can relate to that. Mike Tomlin, the coach of the Steelers, and this is really an interesting rivalry in the NFL in that you have 2 coaches who have been with the same team forever. I mean, this maybe happened back in the 1960s when you had coaches who stayed forever. Don Shula stayed with the Dolphins, 70s, etc. You just don't have this in the NFL. These are 2 of the longest, I think they are now, the 2 longest tenured coaches. And Lamar Jackson is someone that he seems to have a beat on and knows what it's like, having faced him so many times, to once again, Mike Tomlin, take his team up against Baltimore.
It's really cool to be in these games, not because it's them, but because they're a good team. This time of year, you want to be leaning in on 5-star matchups and being a component of it. You're in 5-star matchups not only because of the quality of people that you're playing, but also what you've done. And we respect that component of it, and we're excited about that component of it. And we just want to continue to sharpen our sword for these battles, to find a way to prepare ourselves and put our best foot forward and find a way to win and search for more. And so for this week, we acknowledge, man, Baltimore is a really good team. And historically, we've had some awesome matchups, man. There's always AFC North ramifications, and I just respect this rivalry. I think one of the awesome components of this rivalry is the continuity in the organizations, man. I've been on my job a long time. Harbs has been on his job a long time. And I think that adds a texture and history to it. And so that's something that is an honor to be a part of, and we're just simply writing the latest chapter.
Yeah, they have played now 60 times, and the Steelers hold the edge 35-25. Yet, in that period of time, the Ravens have won 2 Super Bowls, and the Steelers have won 1. And I think that actually, no, that's not true. They won 1 under Cowher and 1 under Tomlin. So actually, it's even at 2. But you would think that the lot might be a little bit more lopsided. But the Ravens have managed to do this. Also, the stability at quarterback, and maybe the Ravens finally have that with Russell Wilson. They had it all those years with Big Ben Roethlisberger. And the Ravens to also to have the long term what they had with Joe Flacco, and now transitioning to Lamar Jackson. So in many ways, it's an old school rivalry. It's like the days of Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. And while these two quarterbacks, you've had some struggles recently with Russell Wilson. He's bounced around a little bit. He seems to have found solid footing here with Pittsburgh. And all credit to Mike Tomlin, who took this reclamation project and said at the beginning of the season that he was in the pole position, Wilson, and played Justin Fields only because Wilson was hurt. They were winning with Justin Fields, but he made the transition to Russell Wilson, and they're playing even better. And this should be a hell of a matchup on Sunday. Again, it's a 1 o'clock kickoff in Pittsburgh. Our coverage here will start at 12:30. I want to thank Brian Wacker of the Baltimore Sun for coming on today, Isaac Kuhn-Harris for running the show, and to all of you listen, Bram is coming up next, and I'll see you back here Monday morning at 9 a.m.